Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC News Break. The woman at the center of the work stoppage at the Sanitation Service Authority is back on the job. The employee with 14 years of service returned to work after meeting with management of the SS at the SSA headquarters upstairs the National Petroleum Corporation in Wildy this morning. Staff downed tools on hearing their colleague was dismissed because she was late in submitting a doctor's certificate. The SSA's Public Relations Officer, Carl Padmore, says management has reviewed the document and has rescinded the dismissal. After meeting with their union representative, the workers returned to work.
The thing is, we all appreciate the fact that every so often we have to re-educate staff about what happens when one is on sick leave, what should happen in terms of notification to the office. But at the end of the day, the SSA, in good spirit and in good faith, have reinstated Deborah to her post. At the SSA, the situation is now back to a level of normalcy, and work continues as usual, cleaning up the highways, byways of Barbados.
The Emergency Management Advisory Council has completed the final draft of a national mass crowd plan for Barbados. News of this from Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Judy Thomas. She says the draft is on its way to Cabinet for final approval.
That has to do with the planning for emergency in cases that there are large festivals or large events going on in the country. We have to guarantee that there's the safety of the patrons in that particular thing, and that has been approved by the EMAP. And coming into the new EMAP September, there are a number of other policies and programs that will be carried to the EMAP.
The DEM director made the comments at the official press conference at the start of the 2014 Atlantic hurricane season. Barbadians have been urged to invest in basic backup telecommunications systems for their homes as part of preparations for the 2014 hurricane season now underway. The call from Deputy Chief Telecommunications Officer with the Telecoms Unit, Clifford Bostic. Giving an update, he says the basic national telecoms systems have been tested and are working well. But Mr. Bostic wants citizens to adopt similar measures for their own safety.
Also would like to caution Barbadians that we should make sure that we have backup systems in place for communications, that you should have your normal cell phone, you should have a backup cell phone, you should have a very basic telephone set, because emergency communication dictates that it's those systems that don't depend on power, lots of power, that will work for you in the initial stages immediately after the impact.
The international ratings agency Moody's Investors Service has downgraded Barbados government bond rating. It was moved 3 notches from B3 to BA3. Moody's says the outlook remains negative. Moody's adds the downgrade reflects the following drivers: reinforcement of negative fiscal trends, increasing government debt ratios projected at above 100% of GDP by financial year 2014-2015, and his expectations of a decline in international reserves this year and the central bank's financing of the fiscal deficit. Well, in response, leader of the opposition, Mia Motley, says the island was warned increasing debt will lead to a further downgrade. She says the move by Moody's shows it cannot be business as usual.
2 weeks ago, we increased the local loans limit to $4 billion, and now today we are increasing the limit under the Special Loans Act by $1 billion to $2.5 billion. We were warned that continued central bank financing of our fiscal deficit will put pressure on our exchange rate, yet the central bank continues to do so. We were warned that increasing our fiscal deficit and missing our targets for fiscal consolidation will lead to a further downgrade.
The St. Michael man held at the Grantley Adams International Airport attempting to smuggle drugs into the island has been granted bail after appearing in court. 32-year-old Samuel Andrew Maynard of Hinkson Gap, New Orleans, pleaded not guilty to possession of 12 pounds of cannabis and was told to return to court on June 10th. Maynard was arrested following a joint operation between the drug squad and the Customs and Excise Department over the weekend. Reports are that Maynard arrived from Canada, cleared immigration, and was interviewed by drug squad personnel. He was then referred to Customs, where searches revealed 8 packages of the illegal drug hidden in a false compartment of his suitcase. Another 4 were later discovered concealed in packages of biscuits. A stalwart of 43 years in the education system has retired. The principal of Harrison College, Winston Critchlow, has been honored at a retirement function held at the Savannah Hotel. There, he was presented with a number of gifts by members of staff and well-wishers. Education Minister Ronald Jones was also present, and he charged Mr. Critchlow to write a book about his journey as an educator.
Reflect on those you've touched. Sometimes we have to forget, even though that is impossible, those who've put stumbling blocks in our way. It's human beings. Human beings put stumbling blocks in everybody's way. So forgive them, whoever they were.
Well, for his part, Mr. Critchlow urged teachers to be more compassionate towards their students. He also expressed appreciation to those who offered support throughout his tenure as principal.
To my many friends, some of whom are here, and whose names are too numerous to call, I thank you for your support and encouragement, and that is much appreciated. You too have contributed to my rich social, and I should also add, religious life. Be assured, in the words of the song, that I wouldn't trade you for the world.
We'll have more news after the break. Stay with us.
Talk about Spikes Town unless you talk about palm boat racing. You don't know about palm boat racing? Okay, people made boats. Very often a boat. Could be bigger. They made smaller ones for children, and they really went on the pond.
Spikes Down, a forgotten treasure, on air and online Sundays at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Caribbean Time.
Regional news now. Chikungunya cases in the Caribbean have spiked in the last week, and according to the Pan American Health Organization, the numbers are growing quickly, mainly in the Latin parts of the region. Also, 2 new countries, Barbados and Chile, are investigating their first suspected or confirmed imported cases. PAHO says the mosquito-borne illness has now reached over 107,000 suspected or confirmed cases. It reported 1 more death from the disease, bringing the total to 14. Dozens of Haitian migrants were abandoned on barren islands off Puerto Rico in 3 separate incidents in recent days. A total of 42 Haitians, along with 5 Cubans, were left on the islands of Mona and Mantilla by smugglers who brought them from the Dominican Republic. On May 22nd, a group of 20 Haitians, including a child, were found clinging to a rock after smugglers forced them to jump into the water. The migrants were taken into Border Patrol custody. An investigation has been launched in Guyana after a 19-year-old man accused police of burning him on both his hands during an investigation into a criminal offense. He was allegedly burnt while in custody between May 25th and 27th. The man also claims that he was beaten by police after he was arrested for loitering. He was then accused by investigators of being involved in a robbery. He claims his hands were allegedly soaked in methylated spirits and set ablaze. The Guyana Police Force said its Office of Professional Responsibility was investigating the incident. In international news, tomorrow marks the 25th anniversary since the brutal crackdown on peaceful protesters in Tiananmen Square in China. The total figure of those killed is not known, and China wants to keep it that way as it cracks down on dissidents. Internet and television coverage, meanwhile, have been disrupted across the country.
Scores of activists have been detained in the run-up to the 25th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacres, according to Amnesty International. They're calling it a merciless campaign of repression. So we had to interview one of China's leading activists several months ago before he was put in house arrest.
首先你要知道，我遇到很多的80后、90后。
You know, I have met many people born in the 80s and 90s that have no idea at all of June 4th. They don't know about all the students who went on hunger strike then, crying out against corruption, demanding democracy. Why must we commemorate June 4th? To fight against the authorities' covering up of the truth and their erasing of the history of 25 years ago.
确实就是说这一代人对以前的那种
This generation's ignorance of the past is directly connected to the Communist Party's brainwashing and its erasing of history. They are not aware of the social injustice that produced such a massacre. It is also related to the fact that this generation is more pragmatic. They focus on how to enjoy life, how to change their economic conditions, how to pursue their careers, how to do business, their own personal struggles and development. We want to tell people, especially the younger generation, that these things did happen, that your predecessors made sacrifices when they were your age, and that today we should still make sacrifices to achieve what was not achieved 25 years ago.
The Chinese government says there's no such thing as dissidents in China. They say they are only lawbreakers and call for outsiders to respect their internal legal system.
Spain's cabinet is to discuss the next step in the process of King Juan Carlos' abdication and the accession of his son, Crown Prince Felipe. Thousands have taken to the street following the announcement calling for a referendum on whether to keep the monarchy.
We're at the El Escorial Monastery on the outskirts of Madrid. This is where the past kings are buried. Now, clearly, Juan Carlos and his son, Crown Prince Felipe, want this monarchy to continue, and this was the first public appearance of the two men together, father and son, the king and the prince, at a military parade that was previously scheduled. The king needed some help getting out of the car. He had to be sort of lifted up, but once he got on his feet, he walked. No statements were made, but clearly the royal household and the government want the Spanish public to see this as an orderly transition with power passed to the crown prince who's first in line to the throne. But many Spaniards see this as anything but normal, and that's why we saw an estimated tens of thousands of people across the country protesting against the monarchy last night, with large crowds in Madrid and Barcelona, in many provincial capitals. They have a whole long list of grievances against the monarchy, and they say it's time to get rid of it. However, in the parliament, there does seem to be a majority in favor of carrying out this transition, and polls indicate that the pro-Republican anti-monarchy current is still a minority current in Spain.
One woman's wedding day has attracted a lot of criticism because she had sewn an unusual decoration to her dress. Take a look.
Here comes the bride.
OMG.
Here comes the bride and the baby attached to the bride's wedding dress.
Horrible. It's a real baby?
Yeah, it's a real baby. Even some of the guests looked like they couldn't believe their eyes as Shawnee walked down the aisle to become Shawnee Carter Brooks with her 1-month-old baby girl fastened to her wedding train.
You can't do that to a baby.
Oh, that's disturbing.
Was it padded, or was she just going bump, bump, bump?
We don't know the details of how baby Aubrey was attached, but we do know it caused internet insults to be showered like rice upon the Tennessee couple. Why not just tie it to the bumper with some cans and old shoes? Poor kid.
That is so ridiculous and embarrassing, too.
Okay, not everyone thought it was outrageous.
I think it's cute.
Another defender posted, "When I was a kid, I loved when my friends and I would drag each other around the house on a blanket. I'm sure the baby had fun riding on her mom's wedding dress."
This is the baby?
Yeah?
Oh, Jesus.
Well, funny you should say that, because that's kind of her reasoning. The bride wrote on her Facebook page, "We do what we want, when we want, long as Jesus on our side. Everything worked out fine. Our 1-month-old was awake and well secured on my train."
She shouldn't be a mother.
So how did the baby behave on her trip down the aisle? The only thing we have to go on is a comment from an apparent wedding guest on the bride's Facebook page. I thought it was unique. All I wanted to know was how she stayed so calm. LOL.
That's a stupid idea.
The bride didn't respond to CNN's request for comment, but she emailed BuzzFeed saying, "Everyone entitled to their own opinion, so all I have to say is God bless you." Could the brouhaha launch baby trains as a wedding trend? Jokesters Photoshop while others quipped, "No child left behind." We asked Jerome about the special lady in his life. If she said to you, "Honey, I want to get married and I want to put my baby on the wedding..."
Oh no, that's not gonna happen, not on my watch.
Well, what can you say? Well, 2 veterans have been included in the West Indies test squad. Mark Seal has those details and more when we return.
Yeah, from me the voice, now it's on your tail. So hear me the man, watch me the bounce beer, watch you know. Them must feel like Banks Beer soft, but Banks Beer like the place at the top. Banks Beer Black Party, top of the chart. Even from me the voice, now it's higher representing for Banks Beer. I make sure say just listen to Banks Beer Black Party every Thursday 98.1 FM from 8 to 9 p.m. With body Indian, it's a go sick. Cause Banks Beer got the show fit. Hey, Banks Beer, sick.
It's heading up to 18 past the hour. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Seal with your lunchtime sports. Suleiman Ben and Jerome Taylor are back. The Barbadian left-arm spinner and the Jamaican speedster have both been out of West Indies setups in all formats of the game for a while now. But they're both included in the 13-man squad for the first test match against New Zealand. The full squad reads Dennis Ramdin captain, Ben, Craig Brathwaite, Darren Bravo, Shivrain Shandapal, Kirk Edwards, Shannon Gabriel, Chris Gale, Kieran Powell, Kemar Roach, Marlon Samuels, Shane Shillingford and Taylor. One notable exclusion is Dwayne Bravo. He was unavailable for selection due to injury. He's home in Trinidad and Tobago to continue his rehabilitation. Now that first test will be played at Sabina Park in Jamaica from Sunday, June 8th until Thursday, June 12th. In basketball, Smalta Pylons say they know how to beat defending champions Barbados Lumber Company LSC in order to win this year's Co-operators General Insurance Premier League basketball title. Pylons were down 0-2 in the best-of-5 series, but they won Game 3 over the weekend to force a Game 4. Now the same game plan is going to be implemented tonight in order to try and force a decisive Game 5. LSC, however, thought they just fell short of winning Game 3. Thus, Pylons escaped from being swept 3 straight. So, it's on for tonight. Pylons coach Ronaldo Mon had said after Game 2 that he had doubts that his guys could rebound from an 0-2 hole. But they did win Game number 3.
You don't know them bigs don't score. The bigs don't score. If you look at your stat sheet, you will see how much points their bigs score. All their points come from the guards. Right? You don't have to be a mathematician. If you stay home and play defense and force the ball inside, let the bigs show up, well, then I think we can win the other game.
LSC didn't have a good night at the charity stripe, and their coach, Francis Williams, said the amount of free throws they missed, 50%, proved to be the game difference.
Yeah, we figured if we had just one run in them, they probably would buckle under the pressure. They almost did, but we probably ran it just a little bit too late.
Had some problems at the free throw line tonight.
Yeah, that was huge. That was actually the difference of the game, and I'm pretty sure the offensive rebounding killed us again.
Neither coach is fully happy with how they've been playing, but they're both hoping to get it right come tomorrow.
We can shut them down by forcing the ball inside. They have to take the ball to the inside. In other words, the big men got to score. Their big men have to score, and their guards have to remain scoreless. So long as we stop their guards from scoring, I think that we can get into the game.
I'm not happy, but we're still confident. We're still ahead in the series. They have to win 3 games straight. We need to win 1. The pressure's on them, and we'll be good to go, man.
Well, that game 4 is set for 8 p.m. at the Wildy Gym. On to tennis. For the first time in his career, Rafael Nadal will make a 5th straight appearance in the French Tennis Open quarterfinals. Nadal won a record 32nd straight match at Roland Garros yesterday, beating Dusan Lajovic of Serbia 6-1, 6-2, 6-1 to improve on his own record by 1.
Nadal had won 31 straight matches. 32 would break his own record at Roland Garros. So look who's there to check it out. Prince, rocking the blowout and watching a blowout. Thanks to the king of clay. First set game point for Nadal. Bending forehand, everybody loves a winner. He would go on to win the game and take a 3-love lead. Later in the first, it's 5-love. Nadal with a short forehand slice, and Lajovic can't get enough on it. Nadal would win the first set 6-1. Second set, Nadal leads 2-love. He's going to bend another forehand for another winner. Game blouses. 6-1, 6-2, 6-1. Nadal on to the quarterfinals.
Highest women's seed remaining, Simona Halep taking on the last American remaining in either draw, Sloane Stephens, who hasn't fared well against the top 5, and she made, well, way too many mistakes. Stephens overcooks that return. She gets broken later in the first, down 5-4, her forehand into the net. Loses the first set. Second set, down 2-1. Again, the backhand. That one's going to go wide. Stephens won 2 of the previous 3 meetings against Halep. One only meeting on clay, but not on this day. Again, going long. No more Americans in Paris. Halep reaches 2nd straight Grand Slam quarter.
In football, Luis Suarez, who has arrived at Uruguay's World Cup training base, is recovering well from his knee injury. This is according to his doctors.
Uruguay's Luis Suarez, who had keyhole surgery on his left knee just 10 days ago, will be able to play in its World Cup opener against Costa Rica on June the 14th. That, according to the national team's doctor. No good news, though, out of Colombia's camp. Striker Radamel Falcao has been left off the squad after failing to recover from a knee injury. He was a long shot to make the team after undergoing knee surgery in January. Jackson Martinez favored to replace him as the starting striker. Now, Colombia will be without Falcao. He scored 9 goals and had 51 shots in World Cup qualifying, both of which led the team. Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi were the only South American players to score more goals than Falcao in qualifying for the 2014 World Cup.